Welcome to A Conversation with Karen with Chef Charles, Part 2. This is Charles J. Drayton, Chef Charles.
Thank you for having me back.
Well, there was some stuff that we did not cover that we started talking about after we ended the interview, and that really has to go to your background. How did you become Chef Charles? Did you always want to be a chef?
No, I actually wanted to be a lawyer. So the story behind how my father was a extremely well-known chef here on Long Island. Same name, Charles Drayton. He was prominent in this industry, award after award. So I remember going into his kitchen as a little 4-year-old at the old Sheraton off Motor Parkway. I think it's called the Radisson now.
Okay.
He was one of the first executive chefs there, and then becoming the food and bev manager there. And I remember walking in 4 years old and his cooks giving me a scoop of ice cream. So it was my first experience in the kitchen that I can remember. But I started working with him on the weekends, on Sunday at 12 as a dishwasher, coming in for a couple hours, wash some dishes, make some spending money. And
that I started at 9 years old sweeping my father's luncheonette.
Really?
So we are
yes.
child laborers. So yeah.
Kind of journey started at 14 when I decided we did full-time summers there, working full-time in the summers at 14. At 15, I figured because of people leaving and me jumping into certain spots, being a dishwasher and a prep person, kind of started from the bottom like everybody else, I had a knack and an enjoyment of cooking. So I asked my father to teach me, and he said no. So I had to work on him for about 8 to 9 months, asking him, if not daily, weekly, can you please teach me? Can you please teach me?
But why was he adamant that he didn't want you?
The reason is, in my family, because we are in the restaurant industry, and anyone in the restaurant industry knows, you don't see your family.
Mm-hmm.
They are 14 to 16-hour days. Your work week starts basically on Thursday, and you work through the whole entire weekend. And your off days, if you are lucky to have 2 days off, possibly on a Monday, you sleep that day all day on that Monday to recover. And if you have your second day, you're doing your run around before you go back to work those long shifts. But you don't really see your family. We didn't celebrate holidays on the holiday. We celebrate holidays the Monday after. So Thanksgiving,
Nice.
we both all worked, so we celebrate Thanksgiving the Monday after. Only holiday we had together was Christmas Day, and we didn't leave the house just so we could spend time together.
You were very lucky. We were in a kosher deli, so our busiest day was Christmas Day.
Yeah, our busiest day was Mother's Day. Mother's Day was the busiest day, but Christmas Day was the only day a holiday we had off together.
So the only way you really spend time, if you're in the restaurant business, you know this, the only way that you spend time with your family is if they work with you.
Right, and that's kind of how this happened, is that, again, my parents weren't divorced, my father lived with me, but I didn't know him because by the time I woke up, I was already at school. By the time he got home, I was already asleep. So I'll probably see him glancing a couple of hours once a week. When I started working with him, I fell in love with the industry and cooking, watching my father, and I kind of put it like this. It's kind of like watching an orchestra and him being a conductor. Him doing 1,000 covers on a day, and him working the cooks and the chefs and the wait staff and everything going out on time, and the plates look amazing going out to the floor, and him overseeing everything and barking out orders and making sure everything is running like a well-oiled machine was fascinating. And I said, wow, this is my dad. This is amazing. This is what he actually does. And that's kind of how I fell in love with the art of food. So from there, I still had to convince him to teach me. So I kind of said, look, if you teach me, I can work and pay for college. So that was fine, but I will teach you as long as you don't go to culinary school. So that was my agreement for him to teach me.
But you were going to culinary school in his kitchen.
In his kitchen. So his kitchen, and the kitchen we were in, was my culinary school. So we had his amazing chef of cuisine at the time. Back in those days, everybody, we had to say yes chef, no chef. It's not kind of like how it is today, but everything was very formal inside these kitchens. And the next step for him to teach me is I had to pass a test. So back then, deviled eggs were extremely popular. And I watched guys make it a million times. I never made it myself back then. And he said, well, you need to make a batch of deviled eggs. Well, chef, I don't know how to make that. Not my problem, figure it out. Now, this is before cell phones, before the internet. You're not Googling it, you're not picking up a book, because there's no books in the kitchen. So I've had to figure it out just from memory and kind of remember what I saw them ingredients they added to it. And I wasn't allowed to ask any other of the guys in the kitchen to help me. And I figured it out. I called the chef cuisine over. Chef, I'm finished. He goes and pops a whole deviled egg in his mouth, just gives me eye contact, walks away from me. I'm thinking I'm in trouble. I think I messed up. Waves my father over. He comes over, pops a deviled egg in his mouth. They both look at each other, eye contact, and both come back to me and say, who helped you with this? No one, chef. Someone had to help you. No, chef. And Chef Green said, this is the best damn deviled egg I've ever had. I said, fine, we'll teach you. And that's kind of started my journey of learning how to cook. Since my father was a Culinary Institute of America grad, so his people he went to school with, I would go and intern for them. The way it used to be, it may still be this way, is that if you wanted to have a substantial resume, you work for, now they call them celebrity chefs, but these very well-known chefs for free. For a year, 2 years, and they took you on.
So how do you survive if you're working for them for free?
That's what it is. You want that chef on your resume to be your ticket to go and work for other chefs. That's part of your resume. I work for this chef. These are things I've learned. And that's the kind of way the industry was back then. So I would kind of learn certain things from him and get in some type of trouble, and that's a whole nother story for another day. I'll tell you some stories that I've had. But my father wanted me to see different perspectives, not just his perspective of how different kitchens operate, in case I ventured out and went to other areas. So.
But you still had that promise.
Yep, that was part of the promise. I went, he showed me how to get to Manhattan, showed me how to get there. I said, you're on your own, you go there 5 days a week, you'll work for this man for 3 or 4 weeks, and you come back and show me your skills, and I'll home you.
But this is before you were of college age, or?
Before I was college, this is at 15. Food, especially to me, is about the details. The small details matter. So how you cut a carrot matters. A lot of chefs, and especially chefs back then, because I'm old school trained, is when the chef tells you to cut something one by one, it needs to be one by one, and there's a purpose for that. It's how it cooks, and how it sweats, it's how the flavor profile, and that's kind of what I bring to the table in my food, and how I prepare things. You're getting layers of flavors, not just a red sauce.
Right.
It's going to be detailed, it's going to be intricate, it's going to be sophisticated, it's going to be complex. That's what I was taught, the complexity of food, the art of food, how to plate things look beautiful but taste extraordinary.
What do you think of all these shows, Top Chef, and Gordon Ramsay has, 55 shows on right now?
It's like everybody, because you take medicine, calling yourself a doctor. A chef spent many years working on their craft, studying, creating recipes, worked very, very hard to get the name executive chef or chef of cuisine. It wasn't someone coming out of a 2-year or 19-month school, then they say, I'm a chef now. No, it's 10, 15 years of grinding. I didn't call myself a chef until I was probably 20. But I've been in the business for 8 years actively cooking. And that's when I knew, well, actually my father gave me the green light to call myself a chef. I was just a cook because I put the time, effort, sweat, dreamed food and recipes, and took risks and failed and overcame and failed again.
Let's talk about a fail.
screwed up marinara sauce accidentally. So I had a couple of pots on the stove, and I was in a soup. It wasn't supposed to be marinara. So I took some sugar and some cinnamon, and because we're busy, I'm putting out food as well, I dumped it into my tomato sauce, my tomato products, not into the soup I was making. And it's, you know, we have these big pots of products, so it's not like you can throw it away because it's a lot of money. I had to figure out my mistake and doctor that thing up to utilize that tomato sauce. So I'm adding ingredients to it and trying to make it taste good. And I gave up. I put it all in the walk-in and said, I'll go back to this tomorrow. Came back the next day and tasted it, and it was phenomenal. So I kind of called it tomato jam. So I actually put it on as a lunch special. We served it with pine nut goat cheese with some crostinis and put a little side of this tomato jam in a little souffle cup. And we sold 130 of them.
Now you don't remember the recipe.
Well, you kind of had an idea, but it wasn't perfected, and that's why you have to go through and then you start perfecting things. And as you keep doing things, you tweak and you tweak and you tweak again until it's perfect or near perfect.
Have you seen Ratatouille?
Yes.
So that's you.
Yes. Yes.
You were
I'm always tweaking.
take a taste.
Yeah.
So that wasn't really a fail. That was a success.
It
You
could have been a
created
fail,
something
but yeah, you know, but you have fails here and there. You know, biggest fail that I had is part of the learning process. So, as I said before about a chef telling you to make something one by one. So I'll tell you a story. So I'm working with this, we would have been a celebrity chef, and came in to do some prep guy, and he said, I want you to cut these carrots one by one, inch diced. So me being a cocky teenager that I was working for my father, I've done prep before, you know, can't figure out why you started me here. It's a whole big, you know, 50-pound case of carrots, and I just started cutting them. I started dicing them. Got done in a half hour, said, chef, I'm finished. Now this gentleman was a white coat. He had copper spoons in his pocket and a ruler. And he was pristine, super clean, walked like he was, you know, walking on air, chest out, you know, came over, pulled off the ruler, and started grabbing the diced carrots and measuring randomly them. Doesn't say a word to me, grabs the whole thing, pulls the garbage can over, dumps the whole thing, and he fires me. On the spot.
Wow.
I said, chef, what did I do? I'm so sorry, you know, and I'm thinking in the back of my head, my father's gonna kill me. You disrespected me, disrespected my kitchen. I told you one by one, you did whatever you want. Get out. So I begged, pleaded, what can I do? He said, go down the 6 blocks, go get another case of carrots, come back here and do it right, or you don't have a job. Now, remember, I'm not getting paid, so I'm like, listen, I don't have any money. It's like, not my problem. I begged for the $10 it cost for the case back then, got the $10, bought the 50-pound case, put it on my shoulder, walked the 6 block, up the stairs, up to that kitchen, and spent meticulously for an hour and a half making each one by one, uniform diced carrots. He came over, he inspected again, and then he grabbed me and said, come here. So there's also different stations in this kitchen. So there's a saucier station where sauciers make stocks, they make the sauces, they make the flavored oils. And he said, you see what you did there? That goes into all of these products. Come here. And he just brought me to another station, the plating station where they're plating everything. He said, you see that? These sauces that were made that started with your diced carrots made these sauces to be plated here. And there's a line of guys, one guy just putting a string of sauce, one guy just putting the starch, and one guy just putting the piece of meat, one guy just putting the decoration. That's the kind of high-end this place was. And he said, come here, and he showed me the finished product. From what you did with that carrot, that one by one, not dice I asked you for, maybe this product is going to a customer that's gonna have this, that's gonna tell us how extraordinary our food is, and come back again. from where you started with that. And that's when I knew it's about the details. Everything matters. Everything you do matters, and that's what brings success.
Fast forward, you're going to be celebrity chef. Now you made a promise to your dad.
Right.
Okay, you're going to college.
So I went to school for poli-sci to get that degree and then go to law school. Life happened. I found that I was very good at this. People were pulling me to open up a business. Once I left, as I was in the kitchen, I did side gigs for clients that came down to the restaurant, and it turned into the first business was called Patricia's Catering. I named it after my grandmother. Which, you know, when I made it the business legal a couple of years later, I couldn't use her name, so that's where Exquisite Catering Cuisine came from on the fly. And that's where the off-premise catering business kind of came. As I was in college, we used to do a lot of parties and private events for, you know, certain celebrities, certain people that were well off. And I said, why can't a guy like me, who works crazy hours and works a lot, hardworking man, a blue collar guy, experience something like this? Because there were no private chefs handling the middle class that I saw. So that's where me being a private chef came from. This is probably 17, 18 years ago. So then I would offer a private chef thing at your home and make some wonderful food for people that worked as hard as I did and wanted to experience something that only the wealthy, I thought, could experience.
I never even heard of it, so when I did hear of you, I was like, that is the most awesome thing. That is a tremendous thing, because you're right, you don't think that the average person can have a private chef.
Right.
I'm so glad you do it, and I'm glad you're not a lawyer. Guess we end this by not saying a regular goodbye. It's like bon appetit, right?
Okay, bon appetit.
Bon appetit, and we'll see you soon.
See you next time.